We're here to talk about what goes into setting up the Obon Festival. And I'm Dennis Akizuki. I've been involved in the Obon Festival for a while. I am in charge of Obonodori and did the job of the Obon coordinator for a couple of years, I think. And I'll ask the other two people on this panel to introduce themselves.
My name is Jim McClure. I started as the chairperson in 2000. I shadowed the year before, and I officially retired in 2017. And yet, I'm still involved. I jokingly say the only way I'm going to get out of this organization is if I go in the witness protection program.
My name is Ken Kamei, and I've been involved in the Obon for years. I got involved as a parent, doing parent duties for my son, who was in Cub Scouts at the time. My son's now 34, so you can do the math on how long that's been since we've been doing this. I've been in charge of putting up the Yagara for the Obon dancing, the stage structure for that number of years.
Okay, let's talk about how big was the Obon Festival when you started your involvement?
Okay, my son's a little older than Jim, so I think he got involved with it then too. But it was much smaller than the structures were different, and there was, as I recall back, it just wasn't so crowded. Now it just seems to be such a big affair. There were just a lot fewer people in those days. That's all I can think about. The dancing lines were not as long.
That's a good point. I mean, Dennis knows, of course, because he would do the counting for this. He was in charge of that for a number of years. And I think when I started, we would have 300 dancers on Saturday and maybe 200 on Sunday. Yeah. And now, and the last count I saw, which I think was 2017 or 18's, we were something like 1,500 on Saturday and 1,000 on Sunday or something like that. So that is a very visible marker of the growth in the festival. As Ken says, I mean, the attendance is crazy.
I wanted to say that since I've been involved in mostly the dancing structure, it's gone from one single stage from when we started to now the same large structure, but then two smaller satellite structures, and the dance lines have extended a lot further up the street to accommodate more and more people who have just wanted to come to the event to dance. And I see that's just been really rewarding for me to see that many people wanting to participate in the Obon.
Yeah, well, that's our own fault. I can't remember the Japanese phrase, but I know it translates as "come as you are." You don't have to dance. You don't have to know the dances per se. You don't have to dance in traditional Japanese costumes. Everybody's welcome to step into the dance lines, and they do.
That is the spirit of Obon. I think, Jim, one year you actually had people to gauge how many people came. You actually had people,
yes,
on opposite ends of Fifth Street with counters, and I think it was like 21,000.
It was 21 plus. It was two people at each, at the 5th and Jackson and 5th and Taylor, one on each corner. And anytime somebody crossed into our space, they would just hit their thumb and tally up another number. And it was over 21,000, which was shocking to me, because my rule of thumb was, I think when I first started, I knew it was less than 10,000. And I was assuming we were up around 15 when I got the 21,000 plus numbers. So that was kind of jaw dropping. I suspect it's probably another grand higher than that, last year. Yeah.
So when you started your involvement, did you, for I guess all of us, did you ever foresee that it would become as big as it is today?
Well, starting my involvement was somebody at the temple asking me to be the Obon chair. And my response was, I don't know anything about Obon, which was true. But what the person who asked me knew, I had been involved in another street festival for almost 20 years. So he knew I knew the territory, literally. And once I understood that Obon was the temple's largest fundraiser, I went, okay, I see two missions here. Let's make more money, and let's make it easier on all the volunteers from the church and their family and friends and neighbors and coworkers who helped put the thing on. Those two goals are incompatible. We have been successful at making more money. The workload has not decreased one iota. If anything, it's gotten harder because the crowd is there earlier and stays later. And they're thicker than they ever were. So, yeah.
I didn't foresee it really getting as big as it has, but what I've noticed over the years are that when we started and when my parents used to go, it was a lot of Japanese folks who just used to come together and look forward to it that time of year. And a lot of them hadn't seen each other since then. And as I look at it just in the last few years, it's turned into a real cultural affair where there's just so many people of all different cultures and different parts of the city coming to the event. It just seems as though it's grown from not just really an event by the Japanese community, but really a community event for the whole area. I think that's what I see most of all. And young people, older people, all coming to the event to eat, play some games, listen to the music and dance. And I think Taiko's been a large part of that too, that when we first started, or when I first started, Taiko wasn't that large a component of what goes on. So it attracts a whole different group of people from maybe throughout the area.
Yeah, I think that's something that should be noted, right? I think Taiko really has been a very integral part in the growth of the festival over the last 20 or so years, probably more than that. You know, Taiko performs huge crowds, and we have 4 collegiate Taiko groups. And when they started, there was decent crowds for the collegiate groups, but now the collegiate groups are attracting sizable crowds from whenever they perform, and the collegiate groups have gotten better and better over the years. And so it's been a real treat to see that happen. And I think we really benefited from the involvement of Taiko, which of course sounds like Taiko began at the temple. So there is that we have that long history of with Taiko. Why don't you, Jim and Ken, kind of compare what setting up the festival was like when you first started and what it's like now? I mean, I think under Jim's leadership, I think we've done a lot to make it easier to set up booths, the construction of the booths, and be more organized about that. And I think, but it's changed a lot over the years, right? Yeah.
When I started, the canopy and the sidewalls for the food court, which is a space that's 65 feet wide and 145 feet deep. Basically, it's the gymnasium parking lot. The canopy was that lightweight material you would see at the garden section of Orchard Supply. It took one person to pull the rope to lift up part of it. I had that changed out to a fire-rated canopy because we had to. And we didn't realize how heavy it was. So now it takes 3 men and a boy on the rope just to get the thing moving a little bit. When I first started, the church owned 2 forklifts. We now still own 2, but we rent 6 for the duration of the build-up of Obon. We park them, for the weekend, and then to take everything down. And those forklifts during the construction days and the deconstruction days never stopped moving. The bingo tent, no, we'll call it a booth because it wasn't a tent, was, as I said, attached to the Dharma School building with 2x6s, which were then bolted by 4x4s, and another 2x6, and out to another 4x4. And the canopy, again, was very light. The dangerous part is you had to stand up on a ladder holding a pole that had no stability, and then bolt the 2x4 to the 4x4. And every now and again, you'd hear this ringing clang of somebody dropping their wrench and hitting the concrete. And I just said, this is too dangerous. We're not wearing hard hats. And the opportunity came, and I said, okay, we're just going to start renting a commercial tent, which we did, you know. But yeah, that's some of the changes are that when we cleared some of the structures off the, well, the reason we had to clear structures off the 4th Street lot was we were only allowed to put the big bingo tent up next to the drama school building, not attached, but next, because for those of you who don't know, and probably some of you don't, I was a San Jose firefighter. I was still on the job then. So because I was there, we got kind of a variance because I was there on site all day anyway, both days. But when I retired, we had to move the bingo tent away, which meant we knocked down a block wall, a couple of storage sheds, not paved, but new gravel down and put a bingo tent up that's 40 by 60. Then a couple of years later, we acquired another property, and I turned the backyard of that property into a beer garden. So those are the major changes. Yeah.
Well, going back even further, I mean, I remember some of the game booths used to be on 5th Street, right?
Yes, they were all wood.
They're all wood.
They were all wood.
Yeah. And so moving them off the street, we just have the one beer booth at the south end of 5th Street. But other than that, that made more room for the dancing, which we needed because we have so many more dancers now and even now we could use more space because I know it's difficult because you're kind of dancing right next to somebody. I mean, there's hardly any room to move. So that's another change I think that Jim made was to move all the game booths into one location, right? I think that happened.
Yeah, that was the idea, to strip everything off of 5th Street so we could stretch the lines. And then, of course, that went awry when I decided that we had to pull the beer booth away from all the kids' game area because it's all adults there, young adults mostly, drinking in front of the beer booth. And it just didn't feel right, didn't seem appropriate.
People might be interested, just how long does it take to set up everything for the Obon Festival? Why don't you both talk about that? Because you are both involved in some of the big construction procedures that need to happen.
Well, officially, Saturday morning is a prep day where we stage the stuff that we're going to touch the following morning, Sunday.
So this is the week before,
this is the Sunday before Obon, which is the following Saturday and Sunday. Sunday has been the traditional start of construction. But now, and because luckily we get a lot of volunteers and they get there early and we don't want them wasting their time. So we stage all the boxes that have all the canopies and the netting, and we pull out whatever components. And it used to be, when I first started, if we just got the canopy and the sidewalls up for the food court, otherwise known as the gym parking lot, that was it. We didn't do anything else the rest of that. But it's got so much more intensive. And now, thanks to a lot more volunteers, at the same time, across the street in the Dharma School parking lot, they are erecting all the game booths. Now, the game booths, again, used to be 4x4 posts and sheets of plywood. Now we use the same stuff that you see at the flea market. Metal posts and silver tops and white walls around these booths. They're fairly simple to put up. You can make a mistake because some connectors look alike, but they're not the same. And actually, even Saturday morning, there's still some last minute stuff. We start at noon, the cooks, depending on the food they're doing, are starting at, 10, 11, 11:30, getting stuff ready. We get a lunch rush now on both days. They're barely at the booths open and there'll be people lined up. And then they're gone. They just come and get the food and go. But yeah, it takes from Saturday to Sunday, say 10, 11 o'clock before we, say, okay, we can't do any more. The crowd's here. Luckily, it goes down a lot faster.
Well, and then we've gone from the setup for the actual event from, I think from 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday to now having access to 5th Street from noon. And that's really been helpful because by building 2 additional stages plus the main Yagata plus the beer booth on the street, it's a lot that has to be erected right on Fifth Street for the Girl Scouts and all the other volunteers to decorate those structures and have those ready to go by Saturday morning. And you ask about how was the setup, and sometimes I'd come there and just start laying things in the street from 3 o'clock, even though it was 5 o'clock, that was our start time, because we just had to. You just couldn't do it any other way, to be from getting all the equipment out in the street to have available for the volunteers to help us set up. One of the other things I've noticed that Jim keeps reminding me of is that there are fewer volunteers now just because of the demographics of what's going on now. And magically, though, a lot of people show up on the Friday night. So it's one of those really rewarding parts of being a member of the temple, that so many people still come to help out.
Well, yeah, it is an opportunity, I think, for everybody, from the temple's perspective, right? And the members of the congregation, the Sangha, is it's an opportunity to see friends and even family members you don't see very often, and they come together. And some families essentially run some of the booths, and have done for many years, many decades even. And it's really a community activity, and it's really kind of, in a very, to get Buddhist a little bit, it's selfless giving, and that's kind of Buddhism in action. It's the everybody coming together to do something for the temple, giving of their time and their work to do a festival that is not only the main fundraiser for the temple, but is an important religious event for Buddhists, for Japanese Americans in general. It's a huge cultural event, and then for the wider community, it's just a fun activity that they just enjoy and look forward to every year. Any other big changes from back when you started to today that you want to take note of?
I think also that just the nature of festivals have just changed lately too, that security has become an issue. But what I've noticed through the years is that since a lot of us have stayed involved, that we're able to address some of the shortcomings that we've noticed from year to year. And with the temple rebuild, and I mean with the gym being rebuilt, and a lot of the things we could do then to address some of the needs of the equipment that we had, that it's become, we're trying to make it easier for all of the activities that take place and are part of Obon to occur, from electrical hookups to natural gas hookups, just the things that make it possible for us to hold the event. And those have become possible because a lot of people have stayed involved, and that's something that's really been a nice thing for the church, and a nice thing for all of us too that are involved in working on the Obon.
No, yeah, we're very grateful for all of the volunteers. We couldn't do, this is an all volunteer effort, so it's all about the volunteers, and it's always been that way. Any funny stories or?
No, I can't think of any right now.
I'll tell one funny story that I remember. Must have been back in the 90s. I used to help out with corn, help out Dempsey Mariama, who was the corn chairperson for a long time. Well, come Saturday, and I think maybe Jim, this might have been before you got involved. The corn gets there really early. There's no corn, and we figure out that the person somehow the order didn't get to the farm for the corn. And the problem was the person who usually did that was not, this is before the early days, I think, cell phones. We couldn't get it. I think he was out of town. So I actually went into the phone book and started looking at farms locally. And it might have been the first one or the second one. It was, I think it's LGB Farms, right? I think in San Martin. And that was the farm that provided us with the corn, and they knew that. Yeah, they were expecting an order, never got it. So they actually did kind of a rush job and got the
Wow.
corn to us. And it was a little bit late. I think we weren't ready when we opened, but we got corn. So that was
Wow.
kind of a funny story.
Yeah. Well, another food story, and this was at least 10 years ago, maybe longer. We had changed gyoza vendors. I can't remember why. And the order was the same. And the quantity in terms of the count was the same. And that is not something I was directly involved in, because each of the food booth chair people, as you know, manages their food order. We've since, computerized all that, which makes it a lot easier. But didn't realize that either the pound of each box was smaller or the count of the gyoza. So we started running out of gyoza early, and we were calling all over the place. Now, my secret weapon all these years has been my wife. She does all kinds of secret elf stuff for me. So that day, I sent her out to whatever we hit the Japanese markets in Japantown. We went to Santo Market, and we went to Dobashi's and took what little they had. And then she was far afield, and I think she wound up going to 5 different supermarkets. And every time she'd come back thinking that was it, I'd say, no, we're running out again. And I would meet her at 5th and Jackson, take everything out of the car, run it over to the booth. We got through the day, but it was not a lot of fun. And depending on what time of day you showed up there, you got a different variant of gyoza. It must, because I think we had 5 different brands, but it was stressful and we got through it. But the devil is in the details, know what you're getting and when you're getting it.
Any other thoughts or anything you want to say about the festival and
it does
how
feel
to put it
strange. On? It does feel strange. I mean, because by this time, actually before this time, Ken and I would already have been down there repairing things and modifying things from last year to this year. And, and if I had dreamed up something else, working on that. So it's a different, the rhythm of my life has changed aside from the virus, but we always find stuff to work on. Either Ken comes up with something that he wants to fix, or I see something that I want to change, and then we're off and running, When I was still working, I would take vacation the week before Obon or the week of construction,
Yeah.
just to be there and be present. Because there was too much stuff going on, and we are blessed with volunteers, but sometimes they don't make the right decision, just because nobody has pointed them to something and do this, not that.
Well, we have people who because it's a responsibility. There's some responsibilities of certain organizations, and so there's turnover. So there's sometimes all of the what needs to be done and when and that kind of thing doesn't make its way down to the new chairperson. So
I mean, outside of the volunteers we need to run during the operating hours, we would not get it done from Sunday to Saturday morning without and these people aren't even temple members, and they're not even related to the temple families. These are friends or coworkers or neighbors that are coming in, and I see the same faces every year showing up. They know the rule, they know the rhythm now, they know what to do. Before I retired, sometimes I'd turn my back and something was finished because they already knew what to do, and I don't know what we do without those people. It really,
Yeah, it is very much a community effort to make it happen.
I think that in conclusion, there's just a lot of people that make the Obon happen for that whole month before Obon, before the actual date, that are down at the facility sometimes every day, just to do what they can or to take care of things. And there are countless things that need to be done to make this happen. Without all of the volunteers that show up, a lot of them randomly, it just could never happen. So it is a real community event, and it's just so rewarding to see the community actually come and experience that with us, because I think it meant a lot to our parents, I think, to have an event where they could all come together to kind of celebrate during the summer some of the customs that they were used to.
Yes, And
Oh.
we've had on this discussion, we've had two of the people who do a lot of behind the scenes work here to put on the festival. Ken and Jim. They're there throughout the year, not just the week before Obon or the month before Obon, but they're coming constantly, checking up on things and repairing things and assessing what needs to be fixed and improved and what needs to be added. So the temple is grateful for their contributions over the decades and continuing, I'm sure, into the future. So we hope you're enjoying this virtual Obon Festival. It's not the same as people have said as the actual Obon Festival, but I hope you are enjoying yourselves and getting something out of this. Thank you very much.